For 8 years, a cowboy lived alone, until a beaten woman gave him a reason to stay. Jack Morgan heard the scream before he saw the woman. He was checking fence lines on the north pasture when the sound cut through the morning air like a knife. 8 years of living alone had sharpened his instincts. He kicked his horse into a gallop without thinking twice. The woman stumbled out from behind a cluster of rocks near the creek bed. Her dress was torn and dirty. Blood dripped from a cut above her eye. She looked back over her shoulder like something was chasing her. When she saw Jack, she froze. He pulled his horse to a stop 10 feet away. She was young, maybe 25. Her hands were shaking. Purple bruises covered her arms. Jack had seen enough bar fights to know what those marks meant. "Please," she said, her voice cracked. "Don't send me back." Jack dismounted slowly. He kept his hands visible. "Nobody sending you anywhere? You hurt bad?" She touched her face and winced. "I'll live. Name's Jack. My ranch is a mile west. You need water and bandages." She hesitated. Fear flickered in her eyes, but she was out of options. "Claire," she finally said. Jack helped her onto his horse. They rode in silence. He could feel her trembling against his back. When they reached the ranch house, he led her inside. The place was simple. 1 bedroom, a kitchen, a sitting area. Everything was clean, but he pointed to a chair. "Sit. I'll get supplies." While he gathered bandages and water, Claire looked around the room. No photographs, no decorations, just furniture and function. It looked like a place where someone existed but didn't really live. Jack cleaned her wounds carefully. His hands were steady. She watched him with cautious eyes. "Who did this?" he asked. "My husband." The word came out bitter. "Danny Fletcher. He runs the saloon in Red Creek." Jack knew the name. Fletcher had a reputation. Mean drunk, meaner sober.
"How long?"
3 years married, 6 months of hell. Claire's jaw tightened. "I finally ran when he passed out last night. Took his horse and rode until dawn. Then the horse threw me near your land." Jack finished wrapping her wrist. "Fletcher know where you went?" "No."
"But he'll look. He always looks."
Fear crept back into her voice. "He'll kill me when he finds me." Jack stood and walked to the window. The sun was climbing higher. Fletcher would wake up soon if he hadn't already. Red Creek was 15 miles east. A man on a fresh horse could make it in under 2 hours. "You can stay here," Jack said. "Long as you need." Claire's eyes went wide. "You don't understand. Danny has friends. Men who owe him favors. They'll come here." "Let them come. Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Jack turned from the window. For 8 years, he'd avoided people. Avoided complications. Avoided caring about anything except his cattle and his land. But, looking at Claire's battered face, something old stirred in his chest. Something he thought had died along with his family in that fire back in Kansas. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. Claire studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Thank you." Jack grabbed his rifle from above the door. "Rest. I'm going to saddle a fresh horse and ride the property line. See if anyone's coming." "You think they'll come today?" "I think Fletcher's the type who doesn't like losing what he thinks belongs to him." Jack checked his ammunition. "So, yeah, today." He left Claire in the house and headed to the barn. His mind was already working through scenarios. The ranch had good sight lines. Anyone approaching would have to cross open ground. That was an advantage. But if Fletcher brought enough men, advantages wouldn't matter much. Jack saddled Duke, his fastest horse. As he tightened the cinch, he wondered why he was doing this. 8 years of peace. 8 years of silence. One scream had ended all that. He swung into the saddle and rode toward the eastern boundary. The morning sun was hot on his back. Somewhere out there, trouble was coming. Jack could feel it in his bones. The only question was how much trouble and how soon it would arrive. Fletcher woke with a headache that felt like someone had split his skull with an axe. Empty whiskey bottles littered the floor around his bed. He squinted against the sunlight streaming through dirty windows. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. "Claire," he yelled. His voice echoed back at him. No answer. He staggered out of bed and checked the other rooms. Empty. Then he noticed the back door was open. He walked outside to the stable. His best horse was gone. Rage flooded through him, burning away the fog in his head. She'd run. His wife had actually run. Fletcher stumbled back inside and pulled on his boots. His hands were shaking, but not from the whiskey. This was anger, pure and cold. Nobody left Danny Fletcher. Nobody made him look like a fool. He grabbed his gun belt and strapped it on. Then he walked out into the street. Red Creek was waking up. Shops were opening. People were moving about their business. Fletcher marched straight to the sheriff's office.
Sheriff Pete Lawson was drinking coffee when Fletcher burst in.
Lawson was in his 50s, thick around the middle, with gray hair and tired eyes. He'd been sheriff for 20 years. He'd learned when to act and when to stay out of things. "My wife's gone," Fletcher said. "Stole my horse. I want her found." Lawson set down his coffee slowly. "When did she leave?" "Last night, while I was sleeping." "Did she take anything else? Money? Valuables?" "Just the horse. And herself." Fletcher's jaw clenched. "I want a posse. Now." Lawson leaned back in his chair. "Danny, if your wife left, that's between you and her, unless she committed a crime." "She stole my horse. That's a crime. It's your horse. She's your wife. Judge would call that a domestic matter." Fletcher slammed his fist on the desk. "You refusing to help me?" Lawson stood slowly. He was half a foot shorter than Fletcher, but he didn't back down. "I'm saying I'm not raising a posse over a marital dispute. You want to look for her, that's your business, but you'll do it on your own time." Fletcher stared at the sheriff for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out without another word. Fine. He didn't need the law. He had other resources. By noon, Fletcher had gathered 4 men. Carl Briggs owned the general store. He was soft and cowardly, but he owed Fletcher money from gambling debts. Wayne Tucker worked at the livery. He was young and stupid and eager to prove himself. The Dalton brothers, Frank and Henry, were drifters who'd been staying at the saloon. They'd do anything for whiskey money. Fletcher stood in front of them in the saloon. "My wife ran off. Took my horse. She can't have gone far. We find her, we bring her back. There's $20 each when it's done." "What if she fights?" Wayne asked. "Then you don't fight back too hard." "I want her alive." Fletcher's eyes went cold. "But I want her back. Clear?" They all nodded. Fletcher strapped on his gun and led them outside. His horse had distinctive shoes. The blacksmith had made them custom just last month. Fletcher found the tracks behind his house easily enough. They headed west. The trail was easy to follow at first. The ground was soft from recent rain. But after 5 miles, the tracks got confused. Other horse trails crossed and recrossed. Fletcher dismounted and studied the ground carefully. His horse had thrown a shoe. He could see where the gait changed, where Claire must have been thrown. "She went on foot from here," he said. "Spread out. Look for footprints." They searched for an hour. Frank Dalton finally found tracks leading northwest. Small boots. Woman-sized. They led toward a creek and then disappeared in the water. "Smart," Fletcher muttered. "Tried to hide her trail. But the creek only ran one direction." Fletcher and his men followed it downstream. After 2 miles, they found where Claire had climbed out. The tracks led west again, toward Jack Morgan's land. Fletcher had heard of Morgan. Hermit cowboy. Kept to himself. Minded his own business. Well, Morgan was about to get some unwanted business. They rode hard. The sun was past its peak when they spotted Morgan's ranch house in the distance. Smoke rose from the chimney. Fletcher smiled without humor. "Found her." Jack saw them coming from half a mile away. 5 riders moving fast. He'd been expecting this, but hoping he was wrong. He rode back to the house and dismounted quickly. Claire was standing at the window. Her face went white when she saw him. "They're here, aren't they? 5 men. Your husband's probably leading them." Jack grabbed his rifle. "Get into the bedroom. Stay away from the windows. No matter what happens, you stay down. Jack, there's too many. You can't fight them all. I'm not planning to fight. I'm planning to send them home." He checked his revolver. 6 shots. The rifle held 15. 21 bullets. 5 men. He didn't like the math. Claire grabbed his arm. "Please, just give me to them. I won't let you die for me." Jack looked at her, really looked at her. She was terrified but brave, ready to sacrifice herself to save a stranger. 8 years he'd been alone. 8 years he told himself he didn't need anyone. That caring about people only brought pain. But, looking at Claire now, he realized something. Being alone wasn't the same as being safe. It was just another kind of death. "Get in the bedroom," he said gently. "I'll handle this." Claire hesitated, then nodded. She disappeared into the back room and closed the door. Jack positioned himself at the front window. He had a clear view of the approaching riders. He recognized Fletcher from descriptions. Big man, mean face, riding in front. The others looked like hired help, probably not gunfighters. That was good. The riders stopped 50 yards from the house. Fletcher dismounted. "Morgan!" he yelled. "I know she's in there. Send out my wife and we'll ride away peaceful." Jack opened the door but stayed behind it. "Mrs. Fletcher's under my protection. She stays here. That's not your decision to make. She's my wife. She's a person. She can decide for herself." And she decided she doesn't want to go back. Fletcher took a step forward. His hand hovered near his gun. "You're making a mistake. This is family business. Nothing to do with you. She asked for help. I gave it. That makes it my business. Last chance, Morgan. Send her out." Jack stepped into the doorway. His rifle was pointed at the ground, but ready. Or what? "You gonna shoot me? All 5 of you?" That's murder. Sheriff might overlook a missing wife, but he won't overlook a dead rancher. Not when there's witnesses. Fletcher's face reddened. "Then I'll burn you out. Fire don't leave witnesses. Smoke does. Someone will see it. Someone will ask questions." Jack's voice stayed calm. "You're not thinking clear, Fletcher."
You're angry. I get it.
"But think about what you're really doing here." Wayne Tucker, the young one, spoke up. "Boss, maybe we should just go. This ain't worth killing over." Fletcher spun on him. "Shut up. Nobody asked you." But the seed was planted. Carl Briggs shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. The Dalton brothers looked at each other. They'd signed up for easy money, not a gunfight with a cornered man who had the advantage of cover. Fletcher saw his men wavering. His face twisted with rage. "Fine. You all stay here. I'll get her myself." He drew his gun and started walking toward the house. Jack raised his rifle in one smooth motion. "Stop right there." Fletcher kept walking. "You won't shoot me. You're not a killer. I've killed before. The war taught me that. It also taught me that some men need killing." Jack's finger moved to the trigger. "This is your last step." Fletcher stopped. Not because of fear, because he finally saw the truth in Jack's eyes. This wasn't a bluff. Morgan would shoot him dead if he took another step. And Fletcher, for all his meanness, didn't want to die. The standoff stretched. Neither man moved. The hired men watched nervously. Then a new sound broke the tension. Horse hooves, coming from the south. Everyone turned. Sheriff Lawson rode into view with 2 deputies. He must have followed Fletcher's group. The old lawman took in the scene with one glance. 5 armed men facing down one rancher with a rifle. "What's going on here?" Lawson asked, though his tone said he already knew. "Family business," Fletcher said quickly. "Morgan's keeping my wife against her will." "That true?" Lawson looked at Jack. "Mrs. Omenge. Fletcher came here seeking protection. She's free to leave any time, but she's also free to stay. She's my wife." Lawson sighed. He dealt with men like Fletcher before. "Danny, why don't you head back to town?
Let things cool down.
We can sort this legal tomorrow. I'm not leaving without my wife. Maybe attempted murder, depending on how the judge sees it." Fletcher's jaw worked. He wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but he wasn't stupid enough to buck the law in front of witnesses. "This ain't over, Morgan." "It is for today," Lawson said. "Now ride." Fletcher holstered his gun and mounted up. He gave Jack one last murderous look, then spurred his horse. His men followed. They disappeared over the eastern ridge. Lawson dismounted and walked to where Jack stood. "You just made yourself an enemy." "Didn't have much choice." "You could have stayed out of it." "Didn't." Jack lowered his rifle. "Appreciate you showing up when you did. I didn't do it for you. I did it to prevent bloodshed in my county." Lawson glanced at the house. "The woman in there?" "Yeah. She willing to testify against her husband?" Jack considered. "You'd have to ask her." Lawson was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Fletcher won't let this go. He'll come back. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But he'll come back. And next time, I might not be around to stop it. I know. So what's your plan?" Jack looked at the horizon where Fletcher had disappeared. "Good question. What was his plan?" He'd acted on instinct this morning, saved a woman who needed saving. But now he had to live with the consequences. Fletcher wouldn't forget, wouldn't forgive. This was going to get worse before it got better. "I'll figure something out," Jack said. Lawson shook his head. "You're a good man, Morgan. But being good don't stop bullets.
Mounted his horse. Watch your back. The sheriff and his deputies rode off.
Jack stood alone in his yard. The sun was starting to drop toward the horizon. He'd been up since before dawn. It felt like a week had passed in one day. He went back inside. Claire emerged from the bedroom. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying.
I heard everything. I should go.
I'm putting you in danger. Where would you go? She had no answer. Jack set his rifle down. You stay. We'll work this out. How? You heard the sheriff? Fletcher's coming back. Jack moved to the stove and started making coffee. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. Fletcher would come back, that was certain. The question was when and with how many men. Jack needed to be ready, needed a plan. We got time, he said. Fletcher's angry, but he's not stupid. He won't try anything right away. That gives us maybe a day or two to figure things out. Claire sat down heavily. I never meant for this to happen. I just wanted to get away. You did the right thing. Nobody deserves what he did to you. She looked at him with something like wonder. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. This isn't your fight. Jack poured 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Claire and sat across from her. Why was he helping? 8 years ago, he'd lost his family to a fire. His wife. They'd died while he was away selling cattle. He came home to ashes. After that, he'd shut down. Built walls. Told himself caring about people was too dangerous, too painful. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe the real danger was in not caring, in letting fear turn you into a ghost. Jack had been a ghost for 8 years. Claire's scream this morning had woken something in him. Something human. Because someone should, he finally said. And I was there. They drank their coffee in silence. Outside, the light was fading. Soon it would be dark. Jack knew he should check the animals, secure the barn, prepare for whatever tomorrow might bring. But for now, he just sat at his table with another person. It felt strange. Foreign, but also right in a way he'd almost forgotten. Thank you, Claire said quietly. For everything. Jack nodded. He didn't have words for what he felt. Didn't even fully understand it himself. All he knew was that 8 years of being alone had ended this morning, and whatever came next, he'd face it. Because for the first time since the fire, he had a reason to. Night fell over the Morgan Ranch. Inside the small house, 2 people sat with their separate thoughts and their shared danger. Outside, the land was quiet, but everyone knew the quiet wouldn't last. Storm clouds were gathering, and when they broke, blood would spill on Morgan's land. The question was whose blood, and whether anyone would survive to tell the tale. Claire woke before dawn. She'd barely slept. Every sound had her reaching for the knife Jack had given her. Every creak of the house settling made her heart race, but nothing happened during the night. No riders, no Fletcher. Just darkness and silence. She found Jack already up, standing at the window with a cup of coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His rifle leaned against the wall within easy reach. Any movement? She asked. Jack shook his head. Quiet night. Too quiet, maybe. Claire poured herself coffee. Her hands were steadier today. The bandages Jack had applied yesterday were holding. The pain in her face had dulled to a constant ache. She could live with pain. What she couldn't live with was fear. And being here, having someone stand between her and Fletcher, that helped. What's the plan? She asked. Been thinking about that. Jack turned from the window. Fletcher can't come at us legally. You're not his property, no matter what he thinks. But he can make life difficult. He can hire men. He can wait until I'm away from the ranch. He can burn me out when I'm in town getting supplies. So what do? We make it so he can't touch you. You need to file for divorce.
Legal separation.
That takes away his claim on you. Claire laughed bitterly. Danny will never agree to a divorce. And even if he did, I have no money for lawyers. There's a judge in Copper Ridge, 40 miles north.
He's fair from what I've heard.
If you testify about the abuse, if he sees those bruises, he might grant you a divorce without Fletcher's consent. And then what? Danny doesn't care about the law. He'll still come after me. Jack set down his coffee. Maybe. But if you're legally free of him, anything he does becomes assault or worse. Right now, he can hide behind the marriage. He can claim you're his wife and he's just bringing you home. That away and he's just a violent criminal. It made sense. Cold sense. Legal sense. But Claire had lived with Fletcher for 3 years. She knew how his mind worked. He'll kill me before he lets me divorce him. It's about pride. About ownership. I'm his thing. He won't let me go. Then we make sure you're protected until he sees reason. How long will that take? Weeks? Months? You can't guard me forever, Jack. You have a ranch to run. Jack was quiet. She was right. He couldn't stay here every hour of every day. The cattle needed tending. Fences needed mending. He had to make a living. But leaving Claire alone felt like painting a target on her back. I have a neighbor, he said slowly. Woman named Betty Coleman lives 5 miles south with her son.
A husband died 2 years back.
She's tough. Practical. You could stay with her while I make the trip to Copper Ridge. Talk to the judge. See what can be done. You'd do that? Risk going to some town where Fletcher's friends might see you? I'd do that.
Why, Jack? Really, why?
Most men would have sent me away, or worse, sent me back. What makes you different? Jack looked out the window at the rising sun. How to explain it? How to put into words the emptiness of the last 8 years, the hollowness of waking up alone every day, working alone, eating alone, sleeping alone, the slow death of becoming less than human, less than alive. I lost my family, he said quietly. Fire took them while I was gone. My wife, Kate. My daughter, Lucy. She was only 6. He paused. After that, I stopped caring about much. Figured caring was what hurt. So I built this place and I shut everyone out. I told myself I was fine, that being alone was better than risking that kind of pain again. He turned to face Claire. But you know what I learned? Being alone isn't being safe. It's just being dead while you're still breathing. When I heard you scream yesterday, something woke up in me. Something I thought was gone. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe I'll regret it. But for the first time in 8 years, I feel like I'm actually alive. Claire's eyes were wet. I'm sorry about your family. Me too. Every day. Jack straightened his shoulders. But they're gone. You're here. And you're alive. That matters. That's worth fighting for.
Before Claire could respond, Jack froze, his head tilted.
You hear that? Claire listened. Faint, but growing louder. Horses. Coming fast from the east. Jack grabbed his rifle and moved to the window.
Claire's stomach dropped. Is it them?
Jack squinted into the morning light. 6 riders this time. Fletcher was bringing more men. This was escalating. Get in the bedroom. Same as yesterday. Stay down. Jack, there's too many this time. Just go. Claire hesitated, then ran for the bedroom. Jack positioned himself behind the window. The riders came into clear view. Fletcher in front. 5 others behind him, 2 of them wore badges.
Jack's blood went cold. Deputies.
Fletcher had brought deputies. The riders stopped in front of the house. Fletcher dismounted with a smug look on his face. Morgan! Come on out. We're doing this legal now. Jack opened the door slowly. He kept his rifle visible but pointed down. What's going on, Fletcher? One of the deputies stepped forward. Young man, maybe 30. Mr. Morgan, I'm Deputy Harris. We have a warrant for the arrest of Claire Fletcher. She's charged with horse theft. Jack had expected this, but it still hit like a punch. That's her husband's horse. You can't steal from your own household. Judge says different, Fletcher spoke up. Horse is in my name.
That's theft.
The second deputy was older, harder. Step aside, Morgan. We're taking her in. Jack didn't move. She took the horse fleeing abuse. Any judge will throw this out. Maybe so, but that's for the judge to decide. Right now we got a warrant. You interfere, you're obstructing justice. Fletcher was grinning. Where is she, Morgan? Hiding? Jack's mind raced. If they took Claire back to Red Creek, Fletcher would have her in his town, in his jail, surrounded by his people. She'd never make it to trial. There'd be an accident. A tragedy, and no one would question it too hard. She's not here, Jack lied. Fletcher's grin widened. Bull! She's in there. Search the house. The older deputy looked at Jack. You refusing to let us search? I'm saying she's not here. She left last night. Then you won't mind us looking. Jack was trapped. If he refused, they'd arrest him too. If he let them search, they'd find Claire. There was no way out of this. Fletcher had outplayed him. Used the law as a weapon. The deputies moved toward the house. Jack stepped aside. What choice did he have? Fight 2 lawmen? That would make him the criminal. The deputies entered. Jack heard them moving through the rooms. Heard the bedroom door open. Heard Claire's gasp. Found her, the older deputy called. They brought Claire out. Her face was pale. She looked at Jack with desperate eyes. "Don't let them take me. I don't have a choice." Jack's jaw was tight. "But this isn't over." Fletcher grabbed Claire's arm roughly. She winced. "Let's go home, wife. You're under arrest, Mrs. Fletcher," Deputy Harris said.
We'll take you to Red Creek.
"You'll see the judge tomorrow. Please." Claire turned to the deputies. "He'll kill me. You're taking me to my death." The older deputy's face was stone. "That's not our problem. You committed a crime. You'll face justice." They led Claire toward the horses. Fletcher kept his hand on her arm. He looked back at Jack with triumph in his eyes. "Stay out of my business, Morgan. Next time won't be so polite." Jack wanted to shoot him, wanted to put a bullet right through Fletcher's smug face. But that would make him a murderer, would turn the law against him. He had to think, had to find another way. Claire was put on a horse. Fletcher mounted up beside her. The deputies took positions on either side. They rode east toward Red Creek. Jack watched them go with rage and helplessness burning in his chest. When they were out of sight, Jack ran to the barn. He saddled Duke in record time. He couldn't stop the arrest, but he could follow. Could make sure they actually took Claire to the jail. Could watch and wait for an opportunity. He rode hard after them, stayed back far enough that they wouldn't see him. The group ahead moved at a steady pace. They weren't rushing. Fletcher probably wanted to savor his victory. Red Creek came into view around noon. Small town. Maybe 200 people. Fletcher's saloon was the biggest building on the main street. Jack watched from a hill as the group rode up to the jail. Sheriff Lawson came out. There was a heated discussion. Lawson looked angry, but the warrant was legal. He had to accept Claire into custody. They took her inside. Fletcher waited outside talking to his men. Jack could see him laughing, celebrating. After 20 minutes, Fletcher went into the saloon. His men dispersed. The deputies rode off to wherever they'd come from. Jack waited until dark. Then he rode down into town. He tied Duke behind the general store and walked to the jail. The building was small, 2 cells in back, Lawson's office in front. Light showed through the window. Jack knocked. Lawson opened the door with a scowl. "I figured you'd show up. I need to see her. Can't allow that." "She's in custody. Just 5 minutes. Please." Lawson looked at Jack for a long moment. Then he sighed. 5 minutes. And this didn't happen. He led Jack to the cells. Claire was in the first one. She jumped up when she saw him. "Jack!" Lawson handed Jack a key. "I'll be in my office. 5 minutes." When the sheriff was gone, Jack opened the cell. Claire rushed into his arms. She was shaking.
He came by earlier. Danny.
"He told me what's going to happen. There's going to be an accident before the trial. A fire in the jail. I'll die and no one will question it." Jack held her tight. "That's not going to happen. How can you stop it?"
He has this whole town. The judge probably owes him money or favors.
"I'm dead, Jack. I'm already dead." Jack pulled back and looked at her. "Listen to me. I'm going to get you out of here." "How? You can't break me out." "That makes you a criminal." "I won't break you out. I'll do this legal. I'm riding to Copper Ridge tonight." "I'll find that judge. Get you a lawyer if I have to. But I will get you out of this. That takes time. Days, maybe. I don't have days. You have tonight and tomorrow. Fletcher won't move that fast. He'll want it to look like an accident. That takes planning." Jack touched her face gently. "Trust me, please." Claire searched his eyes, then she nodded. "Okay, I trust you." Jack heard Lawson's footsteps. He stepped back from Claire. The sheriff appeared. "Time's up." Jack locked the cell. He looked at Lawson. "Keep her safe. Whatever Fletcher's planning, don't let it happen. I'll do my job, Morgan. Same as always. Your job is to protect people."
Not just enforce warrants.
"Get out of my jail." Jack left. He collected Duke and rode out of town. The road to Copper Ridge was dark and dangerous at night. Bandits sometimes worked this stretch, but Jack didn't have a choice. Every hour that passed was an hour Fletcher could act. He pushed Duke hard. The horse was tired but game. They covered ground fast. Jack's mind kept going back to Claire locked in that cell, to Fletcher's smug face, to the way the deputies had just followed orders without thinking about what they were really doing. The law was supposed to protect people, but sometimes the law was just a tool, a weapon in the hands of whoever could use it best. Fletcher had money and influence. Jack just had determination. It would have to be enough. Dawn broke as Jack reached Copper Ridge, bigger town than Red Creek, maybe 500 people. There was a courthouse at the center of town. Jack asked around and found out the judge, Alvin Grant, lived in a house behind the courthouse. Jack knocked on the door at 7 in the morning. A middle-aged woman answered. "Help you?" "I need to see Judge Grant. It's urgent. The judge doesn't hear cases until 9. This isn't a case. Not yet. It's a matter of life and death." The woman studied Jack's desperate face. "Wait here," she returned with an older man. Grant was in his 60s with white hair and sharp eyes.
"What's this about?" Jack explained everything.
Claire's abuse.
The rest of false charges. Fletcher's threat. He spoke fast and clear.
Grant was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking me to intervene in another county's legal matter. I'm asking you to save a woman's life. Why should I believe you?" "I don't know you. For all I know, you're the one who abused her, and this is some elaborate story." Jack had expected this. He pulled up his shirt and showed the judge his own scars, old burns from the fire that killed his family. "I know what it's like to lose someone, to be too late. I'm not letting that happen again."
Grant looked at the scars.
"Those don't prove anything about this woman. Then come see for yourself. Come to Red Creek. Look at her. Talk to her. You'll see I'm telling the truth. I can't just waltz into another county and overturn arrests, but you can file for an emergency hearing, transfer her case to your court. Take her out of Fletcher's reach." Grant shook his head. "That's highly irregular. So is using a horse theft charge to murder your wife." The judge was silent. Jack could see him thinking, weighing. Finally, Grant said, "I'll come to Red Creek. I'll interview the woman. If what you say is true, I'll see what can be done legally. That's all I can promise. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If you're lying, I'll have you arrested for wasting my time." Jack waited outside. His body was exhausted from the all-night ride. His mind was wired with fear and hope. Would they make it back in time? Would Fletcher have already acted? Grant emerged with a clerk and a deputy marshal. "We'll take my carriage, faster than riding separately." The trip back to Red Creek took 4 hours. Every minute felt like an hour. Jack kept imagining smoke rising from the jail, kept seeing Claire's face in his mind. "Hold on," he thought. "Just hold on." They arrived at Red Creek just after noon. Jack led them straight to the jail. Lawson came out looking surprised. "Judge Grant? What brings you here?" "I need to speak with your prisoner." "Claire Fletcher." Lawson glanced at Jack. "This his doing?" "Mr. Morgan brought a serious accusation to my attention. I'm investigating." Lawson looked like he wanted to argue. "But you didn't argue with judges." He led them inside to the cells. Claire was sitting on her cot. She looked up and saw Jack. Relief flooded her face. "Mrs. Fletcher," Grant said, "I'm Judge Alvin Grant from Copper Ridge. I need you to tell me what happened."
Everything. Don't leave anything out.
Claire told her story. She showed her bruises.
She described years of abuse, the beatings, the threats, the night she finally ran. Jack watched Grant's face as he listened. The judge's expression stayed neutral, but something shifted in his eyes. When Claire finished, Grant was quiet. Then he turned to Lawson. "Sheriff, I'm transferring this prisoner to Copper Ridge custody. I'll be holding an emergency hearing on her case tomorrow." "You can't do that," Lawson protested. "She was arrested here. The warrant is from our judge. Your judge is friends with the accused husband. That's a conflict of interest. I'm exercising my authority to ensure a fair hearing." Lawson looked trapped. "Fletcher's not going to like this. I don't care what Fletcher likes." Grant's voice was cold. "Get me the keys." Lawson hesitated. Then he handed over the keys. Grant unlocked the cell himself. "Mrs. Fletcher, you're coming with me. You'll be held in Copper Ridge until your hearing." "What about the horse theft charge?" Lawson asked. "I'll examine that charge tomorrow, along with any countercharges Mrs. Fletcher might want to file against her husband." "Fletcher, someone had probably already told him about the judge being in town."
Jack turned to Grant. "We need to leave now."
"Before Fletcher gathers men." Grant nodded. Agreed. "Let's move." They hurried Claire out to the carriage. Jack mounted Duke. As they prepared to leave, Fletcher appeared at the end of the street. He had 10 men with him, armed men.
They spread out, blocking the road. "Nobody's leaving with my wife," Fletcher called out.
Grant's marshal stepped forward. His hand rested on his gun. "I'm a federal marshal. These people are under my protection. You interfere, it's a federal offense." "I don't care about your federal anything. That's my wife. She's a prisoner in legal custody being transferred for a hearing. Stand aside. Fletcher's men looked nervous. Going against a federal marshal was different than intimidating a hermit rancher, but Fletcher was past caring. No. The standoff stretched. 10 armed men against one marshal, a judge, a clerk, Jack, and Claire. The odds were bad, but federal law was on their side. If Fletcher shot a marshal, he'd hang. Everyone knew it. "Danny!" Lawson called out. He'd followed them outside. "Don't be stupid. This isn't worth hanging for. They're stealing my wife. She's not property. She's a person. And she's going to get a fair hearing. If you've got a legal claim, make it in court." Fletcher's face was red with rage. But slowly, reluctantly, he lowered his hand from his gun. His men relaxed slightly. The marshal nodded at Grant. "Now, sir." The carriage lurched forward. Fletcher's men parted just enough to let it through. Jack rode beside the carriage. He could feel Fletcher's eyes burning into his back. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But they'd bought time. That was something. They made it out of Red Creek without shots fired. The road stretched ahead toward Copper Ridge, toward safety, toward maybe a chance at justice. Claire looked out the carriage window at Jack. She mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." Jack nodded. He was exhausted. He'd been awake for over 30 hours, had ridden 100 miles, had put his life on the line for a woman he barely knew. But looking at Claire's grateful face, he knew he'd do it again. Because this was what living meant. Not just breathing, not just existing, but standing up for something, for someone. 8 years he'd been a ghost, but now he was alive again. And whatever came next, whatever Fletcher tried, Jack would face it. Because he had a reason to fight now, a reason to stay. The carriage rolled on through the afternoon sun. Behind them, Red Creek grew smaller. Ahead, Copper Ridge waited, and with it, the promise of something 8 years alone had nearly made Jack forget. Hope. The hearing started at 9 the next morning in Judge Grant's courtroom. Claire sat beside a lawyer Grant had assigned her, a public defender named Walter Price. He was young but sharp. He'd spent the evening reviewing Claire's case and preparing her testimony. Jack sat in the back of the courtroom. He'd cleaned up at a boarding house, changed clothes, tried to look presentable. But his eyes were hollow from lack of sleep and his jaw was tight with tension. Fletcher arrived with his own lawyer, a slick-looking man from the city named Harrison Webb. Webb had a reputation. He won cases through intimidation and legal tricks. Fletcher sat behind his lawyer looking smug. Like this was already decided, Judge Grant entered and everyone stood. Grant took his seat and surveyed the courtroom with those sharp eyes. "We're here for an emergency hearing regarding Claire Fletcher.
The charges are horse theft. Mrs.
Fletcher has filed countercharges of assault and domestic abuse. We'll hear both sides. Mr. Webb, you may begin." Webb stood. He was smooth.
Practiced. Your Honor, this is a simple case.
Mrs. Fletcher took a horse that belonged to her husband. A horse valued at $200. She admits she took the horse. That's theft. The abuse allegations are merely an attempt to deflect from her crime. Mrs. Fletcher fled for her life. Price countered. She took the only transportation available. That's not theft. The law doesn't recognize degrees of theft based on emotion, Webb said. Theft is theft. Grant held up his hand. I'll decide what the law recognizes. Mrs. Fletcher approached the bench. Claire stood. Her legs were shaking, but she walked forward with her head high. Grant looked at her face, at the fading bruises, at the cut above her eye that was still healing. Did your husband do this? Grant asked. Yes, Your Honor. How many times has he struck you? I stopped counting after the first year. Maybe 100 times. Maybe more. Webb stood. This is hearsay. There's no proof. I can see the proof on her face, Grant said coldly. Sit down, Mr. Webb.
Grant continued questioning Claire, the years of abuse.
The escalation. The night she knew, if she didn't leave, he'd eventually kill her. Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry. She was strong, braver than Jack had realized. Did you intend to keep the horse? Grant asked. No, Your Honor. I planned to return it once I was safe. I just needed to get away. Grant nodded. Mr. Fletcher, approach. Fletcher stood and walked forward. He tried to look innocent, hurt. Your Honor, my wife is confused. We had arguments, sure. What couple doesn't? But I never hurt her. You're calling her a liar? I'm saying she's exaggerating, making up stories. Grant stared at Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher, I've been a judge for 30 years. I've seen hundreds of abused women. I know what real bruises look like, what defensive wounds look like. Your wife has both. She could have gotten those anywhere. Could have, but didn't. Grant leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. The horse theft charges are dismissed. Mrs. Fletcher had justification for taking the horse. As for the assault charges, I'm issuing a warrant for your arrest. Fletcher's face went white. What? You heard me. You're under arrest for assault and battery. You'll be held until trial.
Webb jumped up.
Your Honor, you can't do this. My client hasn't been charged with anything. He is now. I just charged him. Marshal, take Mr. Fletcher into custody.
The marshal moved forward.
Fletcher backed away. This is illegal. You can't arrest me in your county for something that happened in another county. Actually, I can. Domestic violence is a serious crime. I have jurisdiction to issue a warrant based on testimony given in my courtroom. Now you can come peacefully, or the marshal can drag you. Fletcher looked around wildly. His men weren't here. He was alone. Trapped. The marshal put handcuffs on him. Fletcher glared at Claire with pure hatred. You'll pay for this. Get him out of my courtroom, Grant said. They led Fletcher away. Webb was sputtering protests. Grant ignored him.
Mrs.
Fletcher, you're free to go. I'm also granting you a temporary restraining order against your husband. He's not allowed within 100 yards of you. If he violates this order, he'll face additional charges. Claire was crying now. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank Mr. Morgan. He's the one who rode through the night to get you justice. Claire turned and looked at Jack. He stood up from the back row. Their eyes met across the courtroom. All the fear and danger and desperate hope of the last 2 days passed between them. After the hearing, they stood outside the courthouse. Claire was free. Actually free. It felt unreal, like a dream she might wake from.
What will you do now?
Jack asked. Claire looked at him, at this man who'd risked everything for a stranger. I don't know. I have no money, no family, nowhere to go. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You could come back to the ranch. Jack, I can't keep imposing on you. It's not imposing. I could use help. Someone to cook, help with the house. It gets lonely out there. He paused. And honestly, I've gotten used to having someone around. These last 2 days. Even with all the danger. It felt good to not be alone.
Are you sure? I'm sure.
Claire smiled. First real smile Jack had seen on her face. Then yes, I'd like that. They rode back to the Morgan Ranch together. This time not fleeing, not hiding. Just traveling towards something that might be a new start. The land stretched out around them. Wide and open and full of possibility. When they reached the ranch, everything looked the same. The house, the barn, the fence lines. But somehow it felt different. Like it was alive again. Like it had been sleeping and was now waking up. I'll take the barn, Claire said. Fix it up, make a room for myself. You can have the bedroom. I'll take the barn. Jack, it's your house. They spent the afternoon settling in. Jack showed Claire around the ranch. Introduced her to the cattle, taught her about the daily routine. Claire absorbed everything. She was quick and capable. Not afraid of hard work. That night they ate dinner together. The first peaceful meal either had enjoyed in days, maybe years. Jack told her about his plans for the ranch, about expanding the herd. About maybe hiring a hand next year if business was good. Claire listened and asked questions and offered ideas. It felt natural. Easy. After dinner they sat on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Jack lit his pipe. Claire wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. They sat in comfortable silence. Do you think Fletcher will come back? Claire finally asked. Maybe. Eventually. But he's facing trial now. If he's convicted, he'll go to prison. Even if he's not, the restraining order gives us legal protection. He can't just show up here. Men like Danny don't care about restraining orders. I know.
But we'll be ready, and you're not alone anymore.
That matters. Why did you really help me? The truth. Jack thought about it. About Kate and Lucy. About the 8 years of loneliness. About the scream that had changed everything. I told you about my family. After they died, I convinced myself that being alone was safer, that if I didn't let anyone close, I couldn't lose them. But that's not living. That's just waiting to die. He turned to face Claire. When I heard you scream, something broke open inside me, some wall I'd built, and I realized I had a choice. I could stay safe and alone and dead inside, or I could take a risk. Help someone, be human again. I chose to be human. Claire's eyes were wet. I'm glad you did. Me too. They sat together as darkness fell, two broken people finding something like peace. The ranch was quiet, no riders approaching. No threats on the horizon, just the night sounds. Crickets, distant cattle, the wind through the grass. Jack knew this peace might not last. Fletcher was still out there. Other dangers lurked. Life on the frontier was never certain, but for the first time in 8 years, Jack wasn't alone. And that made everything worth it. I was thinking, Claire said softly, maybe I could plant a garden behind the house. Vegetables, maybe some flowers. I'd like that, and we could fix up the barn, make it look nice, sure. And maybe, Claire hesitated, maybe we could make this place feel like a home instead of just a ranch. Jack smiled. I'd really like that. The stars came out one by one. The moon rose over the eastern hills. Jack Morgan and Claire Fletcher sat together on that porch, two survivors finding their way towards something neither had expected. Not love. Not yet. But companionship. The beginning of healing. 8 years Jack had lived alone. But he wasn't alone anymore. And as he sat there with Claire beside him, listening to the night sounds of his ranch, Jack Morgan felt something he thought was gone forever. He felt alive. The next morning started like any other. Jack woke before dawn and checked the animals. Claire made breakfast. They ate together and discussed the day's work. Jack needed to ride the north fence line. Claire wanted to start on the garden. It was normal. Peaceful. Almost boring. That changed at noon. Jack was mending a section of fence when he saw the dust. Riders coming from the east. Multiple riders. His stomach dropped. He abandoned the fence and rode hard toward the house. Claire saw him coming and met him in the yard. What's wrong?
Riders.
Coming fast. Jack dismounted and grabbed his rifle. Get inside. Is it Fletcher? Don't know, but we're not taking chances. Claire hurried into the house. Jack took position at the window. The riders came into view. 5 men. But these weren't Fletcher's hired guns. Jack recognized the lead rider, Sheriff Lawson. The others were deputized townsmen. They stopped in front of the house. Lawson dismounted. He looked tired, older than he had just days ago. Morgan, we need to talk. What's this about? Fletcher escaped custody last night. He's gone. Jack's blood went cold. How? Fire at the Copperidge jail. Someone set it deliberately. Created a distraction. Fletcher walked out during the chaos. By the time they realized he was gone, he'd disappeared. Who helped him? But Fletcher has money. Money buys loyalty, or at least cooperation. Lawson looked past Jack toward the house. Where is Mrs. Fletcher? Inside. Why? Because Fletcher's coming for her. That's why I'm here. To warn you, he sent word through a saloon keeper. Said he's going to finish what he started. Said no judge or lawman is going to stop him. Jack tightened his grip on the rifle. Let him come. Don't be stupid, Morgan. Fletcher's crazy with rage now. He'll bring an army if he has to. You can't fight an army. What do you suggest? Lawson shifted uncomfortably. Come back to Red Creek with me, both of you. I can protect you in town, my jail, my deputies. Fletcher would be insane to attack the sheriff's office. And how long do we stay there? Days? Weeks? Forever? Until Fletcher's caught. I have men looking for him. Jack shook his head. This is my land. My home. I'm not running. Morgan, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You want me to trust the law to protect Claire? The same law that arrested her for horse theft? The same law that let Fletcher walk out of jail? Lawson's face reddened. That wasn't my fault. Doesn't matter whose fault it was. Point is, the law can't protect us. So we'll protect ourselves. Claire appeared in the doorway. Jack, maybe the sheriff's right. Maybe we should go to town. And then what? We can't stay in jail forever. Eventually we have to come back here. And Fletcher will be waiting. Better to end this now on ground we know. Lawson looked between them. You're both going to get killed, but we'll die free, not hiding, not running, Jack's voice was hard. That's worth something. The sheriff was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I can't make you come, but I can leave 2 deputies here. They'll help you watch the place. I appreciate that. Don't appreciate it yet. You might still die. Lawson turned to his men. Harris, Turner, you're staying. Rest of you, back to town. 2 deputies dismounted. The younger one, Harris, looked scared. The older one, Turner, looked resigned. They'd both seen enough violence to know what might be coming. After Lawson left with the others, Jack gathered Turner and Harris. How good are you both with rifles? Good enough, Turner said. Fought in the war? Seen action? Harris nodded. I can shoot. All right. Here's the situation. This ranch is defensible. Clear sight lines on all approaches. The house has thick walls. Windows face all directions. We can see anyone coming from half a mile away. How many men will Fletcher bring? Harris asked. As many as he can buy. Could be 5. Could be 20. We won't know until they show up. Turner walked around the property assessing. We should build barricades. Use the water troughs for cover. Maybe dig some rifle pits. Good thinking. Claire, you handle ammunition. Count every bullet we have. Make sure all the guns are loaded. They worked through the afternoon. Jack and the deputies built makeshift barriers using fence posts and troughs. They'd positioned them strategically around the house. Claire organized ammunition and supplies. Water, food, medical supplies. Everything they might need for a siege. As the sun started to drop, Jack called everyone together. They'll come at night. That's when Fletcher has the advantage. Harder for us to see them approaching. Easier for them to get close. How do we fight in the dark? Harris asked. We don't. We make them come to us. We stay in the house. We hold our ground. Anyone who approaches the house is an enemy. We shoot first and ask questions later. Turner nodded. Simple. I like it. Claire looked at Jack. What if they try to burn us out? Like Fletcher did with the jail? That's why we have water barrels stationed around the house. At the first sign of fire, we put it out. And if we can't? Jack met her eyes. Then we make a run for the barn. Take the horses and scatter. Regroup later. But it won't come to that. How do you know? Because I'm not losing anyone else. Not after Kate and Lucy. Not after everything we've been through. Jack's voice was steel. We survived this. All of us. That's not hope. That's a promise. They ate a quick dinner as darkness fell. Nobody had much appetite. The tension was thick. Every sound outside made them jump. Every shadow could be Fletcher. Every moment stretched like pulled wire. Jack positioned everyone at different windows. Turner took the front. Harris took the back. Claire took the east side.
Jack took the west. They waited in silence.
Minutes became hours. The moon rose. The night deepened. At midnight, Turner spoke quietly. Movement. North Ridge. Jack moved to the front window. He could see shapes on the horizon. Riders. Lots of riders. They weren't trying to hide.
They wanted to be seen.
Count them, Jack said. Turner squinted. 12. Maybe 15. Hard to tell in the moonlight. 15 men against 4. The odds were worse than Jack had feared. But there was no backing down now. Fletcher was here. This was happening. The riders stopped at the edge of rifle range. One man rode forward, alone. Even in the darkness, Jack recognized Fletcher's build, his arrogance. Morgan, Fletcher yelled. Send out my wife and we'll leave peaceful. Jack didn't respond. No point in negotiating with a man bent on murder. I know you can hear me. This is your last chance. Give me Claire and nobody else dies. Still no response. Fletcher waited. Then he turned his horse and rode back to his men. They spread out. Surrounding the house, cutting off any escape routes. They're trying to encircle us, Turner said. Just means they're all in shooting range. The riders took positions. Jack could see the glint of weapons in the moonlight. This wasn't a raid. This was war. Fletcher had brought an army to crush one man and reclaim his property. Because that's all Claire was to him. Property. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The standoff stretched. Then Jack saw it. Torches. 3 men had lit torches. They were going to try to burn them out. Rifles ready, Jack commanded. When they move, we fire. The torchbearers kicked their horses into motion. They charged toward the house from different directions. Jack sighted his rifle. Waited. The riders got closer. Closer. At 50 yards, Jack fired. His shot took one rider clean out of the saddle. The torch fell and sputtered out. Turner fired next. Missed. Fired again. Hit. Another torchbearer went down. Harris fired wild. Missed completely. But the third rider veered off, spooked by the gunfire. "Reload!" Jack yelled. Gunfire erupted from Fletcher's men. Bullets slammed into the house walls, shattered windows. Jack ducked below the sill. Glass rained down on him. Claire screamed from the east window. "You hit?" Jack called. "No, just surprised." The gunfire continued, relentless. Fletcher's men were laying down, suppressing fire, keeping them pinned. Jack risked a look. More riders were moving, coming from the south. They had another torch.
Turner.
South side. Turner moved positions. Fired. The torchbearer's horse went down. The rider tumbled. The torch skittered across the ground, but it landed near the barn. The dry wood caught. "The barn's on fire!" Claire yelled. Jack cursed. The barn was full of hay. If it went up completely, they'd lose all their horses. Their only means of escape. He couldn't let that happen. "Cover me!" Jack ran for the back door. "Jack, no!" Claire screamed. But Jack was already outside. He sprinted for the barn. Bullets kicked up dirt around his feet. He heard Claire and the deputies firing, trying to keep Fletcher's men pinned. Jack reached the barn and grabbed a bucket, filled it from the water trough, threw it on the flames. The fire was bigger than he thought, spreading fast. He filled another bucket, threw it. The flames died down but didn't go out. He needed more water, more time, more hands. Ryder appeared from nowhere, charging straight at Jack, gun raised. Jack dropped the bucket and drew his revolver. Fired twice, the rider fell. His horse kept running, spooked by the gunfire and flames. Jack went back to fighting the fire. Another bucket. Another. The flames were losing. He was winning. Then he heard Claire scream from the house. Not a scared scream. A name. Fletcher. Jack spun. Fletcher was at the house. He'd used the barn fire as a distraction. Got close while Jack was outside. He had Claire, dragging her out of the house. She was fighting. Kicking. Scratching.
But Fletcher was bigger. Stronger.
Jack ran. He was 30 yards away. Fletcher threw Claire onto a horse, mounted behind her. Kicked the horse into motion. They were leaving. Fletcher was escaping with Claire. Jack raised his revolver. Aimed, but the shot was impossible. Claire was in the way. If he missed even slightly, he'd hit her. He couldn't risk it. He lowered his gun and ran for Duke. Behind him, the barn fire was mostly out. Turner and Harris were still firing from the house. Fletcher's men were falling back. They'd accomplished their mission. Fletcher had Claire. The rest didn't matter. Jack mounted Duke and gave chase. Fletcher was heading east, back toward Red Creek, back toward his territory. Jack pushed Duke hard. The horse responded. They were fast. Faster than Fletcher's mount carrying 2 people. The chase stretched across the dark prairie. Jack gained ground. 50 yards? 40? 30. Fletcher looked back and saw him coming. He fired his gun wildly behind him. The shots went wide, 20 yards. Jack was close enough to see Claire's face. She was fighting Fletcher even on the moving horse, making it hard for him to control the animal. Smart girl, brave girl. 10 yards. Jack leaned forward, pushed Duke harder. He was almost close enough. Almost there. Then Fletcher's horse stumbled. Hit a gopher hole or rock. The horse went down hard. Fletcher and Claire tumbled. Jack pulled Duke up short and dismounted. He ran forward. Fletcher was already up. Blood ran down his face from where he'd hit the ground. But he had his gun, and he had it pointed at Claire. "Don't move, Morgan." Fletcher's voice was ragged. "I'll kill her. I swear I'll do it." Jack froze. He was 10 feet away. His gun was holstered. He couldn't draw fast enough, not with Fletcher already aimed at Claire's head. "It's over, Fletcher. You're finished. Even if you kill us both, you're finished. Maybe. But I'll have the satisfaction of knowing she didn't win. She didn't escape me. She's mine. Even in death, she's mine." Claire was on her knees, blood on her face from the fall, but her eyes were clear, defiant. "I was never yours, Danny. I was a person, a human being. You just never saw that. Fletcher's gun shook. Rage and madness twisted his features. You made a fool of me. You and this cowboy made me look weak. You did that yourself? Jack said carefully. He was inching closer. Tiny movements. Hitting a woman doesn't make you strong. It makes you pathetic. Shut up! Fletcher swung the gun toward Jack. That was the opening Jack needed. He drew and fired in one motion. His bullet took Fletcher in the shoulder. Fletcher's gun went off, but the shot went wild. He staggered back, dropping his weapon. Jack kicked the gun away. Fletcher fell to his knees. The fight was gone out of him. He'd lost everything. His respect. His power. All he had left was pain and failure. Claire stood slowly. She walked to where Fletcher knelt. For a moment, Jack thought she might kick him, might hurt him the way he'd hurt her. But she just looked down at him with something like pity. I forgive you, she said quietly. Not for you. For me, because I'm not carrying your hate anymore. I'm free. Fletcher looked up at her with confusion and rage. But there was something else there, too. Something broken. He'd spent so much time trying to own another person that he'd destroyed himself in the process. Riders approached from the west. Lawson and his deputies. They'd heard the gunfire and followed. They found Fletcher on his knees and Jack standing over him with a gun. It's over, Jack said. Fletcher tried to kidnap Claire. He fell during the chase. His shoulders wounded. Lawson dismounted and handcuffed Fletcher. You're under arrest. Again, this time you won't escape. Fletcher didn't resist, didn't speak.
He was a broken man.
All his schemes had failed. All his violence had brought him nothing but ruin. They took Fletcher back to Red Creek. Jack and Claire followed slowly. The eastern sky was starting to lighten. Dawn was coming. After the longest night of their lives, morning was finally here. At the jail, Lawson locked Fletcher in a cell. This time there would be guards. This time there would be no escape. Fletcher would face trial. Would likely hang. Justice moved slow, but it moved. Jack and Claire stood outside the jail in the early morning light. They were exhausted, battered, but alive. Together. It's really over? Claire asked. It's over. She leaned against him. He put his arm around her shoulders. They stood like that for a long moment. Two people who'd survived hell. Who'd found each other in the darkness? Who'd made it to the other side? What now? Claire asked. Jack thought about the ranch. About the burned barn that would need rebuilding, about the fence that still needed mending, about all the work that waited, but also about the garden Claire wanted to plant, about the home they'd talked about creating, about the life that stretched ahead of them. Now we go home, he said, and we start living. They collected Duke and started the long ride back to the Morgan Ranch. The sun rose behind them, painting the world in gold and amber. A new day. A new beginning. The past couldn't be changed. Kate and Lucy were still gone. Claire's years of abuse couldn't be erased, but the future was unwritten. Jack Morgan had spent 8 years alone, learning to survive, learning to exist without really living. But those days were behind him now. He had a reason to stay, a reason to build instead of just maintain, a reason to hope. Claire rode beside him, no longer running, no longer afraid. Free in a way she'd never been before. She didn't know exactly what her future held, didn't know if she and Jack would remain partners or become something more. But she knew she was safe. She knew she was valued. And that was enough. They reached the ranch in mid-morning. The barn was damaged but still standing. The house had bullet holes in the walls, but it was intact. Everything could be repaired.
Everything could be rebuilt.
Together. Where do we start? Claire asked. Jack looked around at his land, at the cattle grazing peacefully, at the fence line stretching toward the horizon, at the house that was starting to feel like a home again. We start with breakfast, he said with a small smile. Then we rebuild the barn. Then we plant that garden. Then we fix the fence. One thing at a time. One day at a time. Claire smiled back. I can live with that. They went inside the battered house. Jack made coffee while Claire found bread and eggs. They moved around each other easily, comfortably, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. Over breakfast, they made plans. Jack would hire a carpenter to help with the barn. Claire would order seeds for the garden. They'd patch the bullet holes together. They'd turn this ranch into something more than just Jack Morgan's lonely fortress. They'd make it a home. You know, Claire said, I never thanked you properly for everything you did. Everything you risked. You don't need to thank me. I do, though. You saved my life. You gave me a reason to keep fighting when I wanted to give up. You showed me that good men still exist. Jack was quiet. I'm not sure I'm a good man. I've killed people, done things I'm not proud of. You're a good man because when you heard someone in trouble, you helped. No questions, no hesitation, just help. That's what good men do. Jack looked at her across the table, at her bruised but healing face, at her eyes that had seen darkness but still held light. And he realized something. These last few days hadn't just saved Claire. They'd saved him too, brought him back from the edge, reminded him that life was worth living, that connection was worth the risk. You gave me something too, he said. For 8 years I've been here, but not really here, going through motions. But now I feel like I'm actually living again, so thank you for that. Claire reached across the table and took his hand. Then we saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. They finished breakfast in companionable silence. Then they went outside to start the repairs. The sun was warm on their faces. The wind carried the smell of grass and distant rain. Somewhere a hawk cried. Life was continuing, moving forward, as it always did. Jack picked up a hammer and some nails. Claire grabbed a shovel to start on the garden. They worked side by side, not talking much, just being present.
Being together.
Being alive. In the distance, Red Creek went about its business. Fletcher sat in a jail cell awaiting justice. Sheriff Lawson wrote reports. The townspeople gossiped about the dramatic events, but none of that touched the Morgan Ranch. This was a separate world, a place of peace and possibility. By evening, they'd made